What's up everyone, in this video we'll be taking a look at the Jak 2 design bible from the Limited Run Games Collector's Edition. This video will be pretty similar to the previous video I did on the Precursor Legacy design bible, so if you haven't seen that, I'll link it in the description below. Basically, these design bibles are the pages from the original production binders that every employee at Naughty Dog was given while working on the game. It's full of cut content, concept art, and backstories of the characters and stuff like that, so let's get into it. This video is to also let you guys know that this design bible is now up for download on the Jak and Daxter archive. More on that later. Let's start with Jak. So just like the last video, there are a lot of design choices here which are pretty interesting. A couple of things that are still present from Jak 1 is his racing goggles show the heads-up display, and his shoulder armor is to protect him from Daxter's claws. Then we've got more obvious stuff like his new clothes and his goatee. Then we've got some cool stuff. He has new ISO absorption gloves for handling recoil from the Morph gun and for racing. His new shoes are steel-tipped combat boots for hammer blow spin kicks, which is awesome. It also explains his new hairstyle. Obviously it's longer from his time in prison, but it says that his new flat hairstyle makes him less conspicuous when hiding from the law. Then it talks about the Morph gun and Jetboard shrinking to fit on his back. We'll get to these later. Let's have a look at Dark Jak. It gives a description of how he's able to transform, which is really cool. Then it has this other paragraph, which I'll just read out. This mode is terribly exhausting, and Jak always comes out of it damaged with only one hit point left, so he must learn to use it wisely. First off, it describes what seems to be a cut mechanic of Dark Jak, which is after transforming, Jak is only left with one hit point. Another point of interest is the box art for the Japanese version uses these two paragraphs on the front cover's blurb. And while we're talking about this cover, one of the first pages of the design bible has this quote from Time's Trials, the memoirs of Samos Hagai. This quote is also on the front blurb, which is super cool. Anyway, back to Dark Jak, it also goes over his abilities. It says that Dark Jak is invincible, he moves faster, he fights with ferocious, rapid attacks, and he can use special items which otherwise might cause him harm. This is pretty interesting. First off, it seems Dark Jak was going to be invincible from the start, instead of it being a power obtained from skull gems. That last point, being able to use special items, is so cool. In my opinion, Dark Jak, and Light Jak for that matter, are heavily underutilized in these games, which is such a shame because they're so awesome. Dark Jak is especially underutilized, so I really wish this mechanic of using special items was kept in the game. That would have been awesome and incentivized players to actually use him. Anyway, like the last time, it doesn't really say anything about Daxter. This time around, there isn't really anything to say about the arch villains or any of the supporting cast. I think the reason for this is that Jak 2 has a much more heavily involved story, so it is able to flesh out these characters a lot more, so we get more of an idea about their personality traits and their backgrounds. So let's take a look at one of my favorite pages in the book, the page on the statue of Ma. So Ma has always been a big mystery in the Jak and Daxter universe, so having some information about him is amazing. I don't know if the Jak 3 design bible has any information about Ma. I hope it does, but I'll find out soon enough. Anyway, I'm just going to quote a lot of the stuff here. It says here that he was the founder of Haven City, and his legend has grown to mythic proportions. Many say that without him, the world would have been lost to the metalheads long ago. Others believe that he came from another time and came to this world through a hole in space, only to leave when his task was complete. Still, others say he carried the power of the precursors within him, and even talked with them. It is known that he wielded a mighty sword tipped with a precursor stone, and when Ma fell in battle, the stone was buried in his tomb so its dangerous power would be kept safe until a new leader could emerge. So I pretty much just read out that whole page, which has so much new information about Ma, which will undoubtedly influence a lot of Ma theories, especially the Jak is Ma theory that we're still debating. I have a lot to say about this, and about Ma, and I'm actually working on a theory which I'd love to make soon, so I'll leave my analysis on this page for another video. Next, let's look at some gadgets. We'll start with the Jetboard. There isn't much info here, but there are a couple of cool things. For instance, the centerpiece on the bottom is the ground effect field generator, which I think is what makes it hover. It also says it has trick assist grooves, which would make it easier for Jak to perform tricks on it. And it has a geojet thruster, which is probably what makes it go forward. Then it details what it looks like in backpack mode, which is cool. Now, let's look at the Morph gun. First we have the scatter gun. The ammo type is described to be a shell drum magazine. It sports a ruby laser sight with aim assist, which was actually in the game in early stages but was scrapped. It has a range of 15 meters and can shoot 55 rounds a minute. Next is the Power Blaster. Its ammo is a canister clip, it has a shoulder stabilizer, and has an extended range. This and the Vulcan Fury is what uses that ruby laser sight in the final game. It has a range of 100 meters and can shoot 180 rounds a minute. Next we have the Vulcan Fury. It has a rapid feed magazine, This handle that Jack holds onto when shooting is a recoil restrainer, and it has high cycle rotary barrels. It has a range of 60 meters and shoots at an awesome 600 rounds a minute. Lastly, we have the boomstick. It has an ammo tumbler, high pressure gas vent, and a user detonation signal box. It has a range of 5 to 70 meters and can shoot 60 rounds a minute. Now, you're probably all thinking that this seems a little different to the Peacemaker we got in the final game, and you'd be right, this isn't the Peacemaker. This is the boomstick. It was an early weapon that's still present in some early builds of the game. This footage is from Luminar Light's video on it, and just judging from the footage, it looks incredibly hard to aim and use, whereas the Peacemaker is homing, which makes it a lot easier. Still interesting to learn about a cut weapon. They're both still the purple gun, so they are similar, but they're still entirely different weapons. Lastly, let's have a look at the plot and story. Now, there isn't as much here as there was in the last one, we only have 2 pages here. The first page details how the game would begin, and the second page details the overall plot of the game. Now, there's a lot to read here, so I'll just go over it briefly and point out the differences. This story opening is similar to what we got in the final game. In fact, it's almost the same in terms of how Jack and the gang got to Haven City, but there are differences. First, this game was to pick up literally right where the first game left off, with the gang looking into the precursor door we opened in the last game by collecting 100 power cells. They find a strange precursor machine inside and, almost without thinking, Jack touches it, which causes it to spring to life. Then they hear a thunderous roar, as suddenly a giant beam from the machine shoots into the sky, splitting the very fabric of space. From the rift, swarms of dark creatures emerge. Then a much bigger creature emerges, looking for Jack. Samos and Kira are suddenly sucked into the rift and disappear. Jack yells, "Hold on, Daxter," as he runs across the top of the tower. Daxter screams as Jack jumps off the edge of the tower. For a moment they just float there, until the rift pulls them in. The world falls away as Jack and Daxter hit the rift's swirling rim. Then there is only white. So begins the next adventure of Jack and Daxter 2. Now let me just say, I do not do this opening justice. The picture this paints in your head is fucking terrifying. Let's look at the differences from the final game. Here, the opening of the game takes place on top of Golem Maya's citadel, looking into the precursor door, instead of at Samos' hut like what we got. It seems there was no rift gate either, just a machine that created a rift in the sky. And how scary is that? We have these monstrous beings invading and then a massive one just pouring out of the sky. Just like at the start of Jak 1 when he activates that Dark Eco Bomb, Jack activates this machine just by touching it, which is kinda cooler than what we got where he just pushed a button. Anyone could have done that. Anyway, one major thing here that doesn't make much sense is that Jack talks. He yells, "Hold on, Daxter." Jack couldn't talk before being imprisoned and tortured, so it's just an oversight, I guess. The gang is pulled into the rift in the sky to begin their next adventure. Honestly, I'm not sure which opening I like more. I like the setup and the scene that I'm imagining from this early draft, but the one that we got fits more with the story. Obviously, if they wanted the early version to fit more with the story, they would have changed it to do so, but I'm glad they did what they did. Still really like this original opening. Let's look at the rest of the plot. For the most part, it's the same setup that we got in the final game. A couple of interesting things to point out is that the metalheads invading Haven City in the present are a cause of Jack releasing them in the past. It has been theorized that this was the case, but now we know. It also details the race for the Precursor Stone, or in this case, the Precursor Star, which is an ancient artifact with enough eco power to destroy the invading creatures. But it soon becomes clear that it was hidden away for a reason, because in the wrong hands it could destroy the world. After that, it goes on to detail the mission structure of the game, including some cut missions and some missions in a different order than what we got. This stuff is also in the Mega Scrapbook in Jak 2, which is cool. Honestly, I'm kinda bummed we didn't get as much early story ideas as we did for the first game, especially considering the story in Jak 2 is much more involved. I would have loved to see what an early idea for the ending would have been, early ideas for how the time travel worked in the game, if the kid was originally in the game, all that stuff. I know I'm being picky about it, but damn, how cool would it have been to learn about that stuff. Anyway, I left out a lot of stuff in this video. The design bible this time has a lot more information about characters and vehicles than the first one had. There is more pages in this one than the last one as well, so there's just a lot more information. Like I said earlier, the design bible is now up for download on the Jak and Daxter archive. There's a link in the description so you guys can go download it. I'd highly recommend you do so, it's a great read. Just real quick before I go, for anyone that's unaware, which is most of you I'm guessing, I have a Twitter account you guys can follow me at where I give some updates on progress of the videos and website, and post pictures of any Jak related items I pick up from time to time. Go check it out. Anyway, that'll do it for this video. My Jak 3 Collector's Edition has shipped, so look forward to my showcase video on that, and eventually a video on that game's design bible. I have a feeling that'll be interesting. I'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching guys, and see you later.